This is the tuning segment for Fire and Rain. This song is capoed on the 3rd fret, and I should mention that when you capo, especially if your guitar's got high action, that capo can actually squeeze the strings and sort of make your guitar go sharp. So sometimes it's a good idea to tune even after you've got your capo on and tune to the new pitches. With this song, it's a little bit outside of standard tuning, so I would go ahead and tune your guitar to a guitar tuner, then add your capo and try to match these pitches that I've got in the tuning video. So for our E string, we'll be tuned up 3 steps or a minor third, so this will actually be ringing as a G. Your B string will be ringing as a D. The G will be ringing as a B flat. The D string will be ringing as an F. The A string will be ringing as a C. And the E will be ringing as a G. And that's the tuning for Fire and Rain. This is the intro segment for Fire and Rain by James Taylor. This song is in the key of C major. However, as we're capoed at the 3rd fret, we'll be playing chords that are normally associated with the key of A major. And we'll also be talking about this song in that context. There also are some borrowed chords used in the chord progression. As far as the tuning is concerned, the original track is a little outside of standard tuning, so make sure to check out the tuning segment, and we'll get your guitar to the correct pitches with the capo. I'll start out by playing the intro at speed, and then we'll slow it down and talk a little bit about James Taylor's style and look at some of these chord ornaments. As we get into James Taylor's style, it's a finger-picking kind of style, and he'll actually also use his hands when he's strumming as well. A lot of fingerstyle guitarists will have their fingernails grown out on the right hand, as you can see I do. With James Taylor's style, he actually has a real soft and mellow touch that's really more fingertip than fingernail. So if you don't have your fingernails grown out on your right hand, you're actually at an advantage for getting his exact tone. If you do have fingernails, you want to just use a real light touch. And try not to dig in too much with those nails so you don't get such a harsh steel string sound. He also does quite a bit with ornamenting chords and embellishing them, and so we'll look at a lot of exactly what he's playing on the track, but also just some tendencies to his comping style, ways that he outlines chord progressions normally. You'll also notice if you ever watch a live concert that he doesn't always play it exactly like it is on the original track. His playing has evolved some over several decades, and so sometimes the song will have just some different ways that he outlines the chords. So let's look at exactly what he's playing here on the intro. This will be identical to what's on the original recording. We're starting out by outlining an A major chord, what we would think of as an A major with this capo on. So I'm starting on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, if we're counting from the capo, 1, 2, 3, 4. Start with the 2nd finger, and we're going to hit that with the index finger of the right hand and use the thumb to hit the open 5th string as well. And we're just going to slide that up to the 6th fret of the 3rd string. And then we'll add the 1st finger to the 5th fret on the 1st and 2nd string. And we're just going to outline the top of that chord. So it's really outlining like an A major bar chord, which we would think of as normally at the 5th fret. So notice I've got fingers assigned where I'm hitting the top string with the ring finger, the 2nd string with the middle finger, and the 3rd string with the index finger. So that outlines the A major chord. Then we're sliding down into an E minor chord. So we're going to take this same 2nd finger and pluck that on the 3rd string and hit the open 6th string at the same time and slide back down 2 frets. And then add the 1st finger back on and hit the same 3 strings going down. So that segment once again will look like this. We're then going to a D major chord, and we're actually going to anticipate the bass note of that by 1/16 note. So the last part of the first bar, we're going to hit that first bass note of that D chord. So we hit the open 4th string, and then we'll just be fretting a regular D major fingering. We'll start off with the 2nd finger off, which makes a D sus2, and we'll hammer on to make a regular D major. And so to do that with the right hand, we're just using the index, middle, and ring finger to hit those top 3 strings. Then we're going back to the D sus2, and then fretting a regular D major again, and hitting that staccato. So that's going to be stopped with your right hand. So that whole first sequence looks like this. And we're chopping off that last little chord. Now we're going to an A major chord, and for this we're also going to sort of ornament it with susses, sus2 and sus4. So there's a bunch of different ways to play an A major chord, of course. In this case, the easiest way is probably 1, 2, and 3 on the 2nd fret. So we've got the 4th string, 3rd string, and 2nd string, 1, 2, and 3, because we're going to have to take off this 3rd finger to make an A sus2, back to an A major, to an A sus4. Now I should mention one little anomaly about the way that James Taylor plays this chord. If you watch some live footage of him playing, a lot of times he'll have the 2nd and 3rd finger here on the 4th and 3rd string and actually use the 1st finger to do that hammer on that 2nd fret of the 2nd string. And when people play chords differently, it really just has to do with how big their fingers are, how small their fingers are, what they have to do to cram everything in and still execute those ornaments. So it's really up to you how you play that. Just try to be consistent so your fingers learn the movement. So when we arrive at this A major chord, we're going to start with an A sus2, and that's by leaving the 3rd finger off. We'll hit the open 5th string along with the top 3 strings using your index, middle, and ring finger, and then hammer on to that 2nd fret of the 2nd string. Then we'll hit the open 5th string, the 3rd string, and then the open 5th string 2 more times. So it'll look like this. One more time. Then we'll add the 4th finger to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string to make an A sus4. Pick just the 2nd string and 3rd string. Then take the 4th finger off, and then we'll do a pull off of that 2nd fret to the open 2nd string. Then just hit the 3rd string by itself. Then we'll be hitting the 5th string open and the 2nd and 3rd string and hammering back on to the 2nd fret, hitting the 3rd string, 2nd string, down to the open 5th string. So that whole sequence looks like this. One more time. At this point, we're at an E major chord. We can just fret that like a normal E major. We'll hit the open 6th string and play the 2nd and 3rd string simultaneously, then use the thumb to hit the 4th string, then back to the 2nd and 3rd. And then we're going to hit the 4th string again, and then take the 3rd finger off to make an open 4th string. So we've got... At this point, we're going to a G major chord that turns into a G major 7. This is the last sort of arpeggio we have in the intro segment. And for this, there's also a lot of different ways to fret a G major chord. In this case, probably the best way to do this is to have the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, the 4th finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and then we're going to add the major 7 up here on the 1st string, and you can use your 2nd finger to do that on that 2nd fret. So we start out by just playing straight 16th notes up the arpeggio, 6th string, 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string. Then we'll hit the 6th string again, to the 4th string, back to the 6th string, and here's where we start adding that 2nd fret, back to the 6th string, 2nd string, 6th string, 3rd string, sixth string, second string, sixth string, third string. So really slowly, that'll look like this. One more time on that. So that gets us through the intro, and like I mentioned before, this is what's on the original track, and we'll look at some variations that you can do through the verse and chorus later. I'll go ahead and play this intro at half speed, and then we'll move on with the rest of our segments for the song. That gets us through the intro segment.
Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you.
This is the verse segment for Fire and Rain, and I'll play the verse at speed, and then we'll talk a little bit about the fingerings. I should mention that on the performance segment, playing the first verse pretty much exactly like it is on the original recording, and then for verses 2 and 3, I'm doing a little bit more of an embellished style that sort of is a James Taylor style of comping. And if you watch some live performances, you'll notice that his guitar parts have changed a little bit over the years. He'll add a few more sus chords and add 9 chords in, and maybe do things that have a few more notes in it than originally played on the recording. And that's just, as his comping style evolves and, people try to keep things fresh, you'll notice him doing some new things. So that's just to give you some ideas of ways to keep going with this style and outline the chords. So I'll start out by playing verse 1 at speed, and then we'll slow it down and take a look at the fingerings. So in this first verse, we start out much the same, outlining that A major chord. We're not going to do that slide embellishment. You just start out fretting the chord and playing the straight arpeggio, then moving down 2 frets to the E minor. We're going to hit the open 6th string and the 1st string at the same time and outline that arpeggio. So that first bar looks like this. And so notice that the chords tend to be a little bit more sparse here. We're not doing as many ornaments starting out as the vocals have just started in the song. And so this kind of gives those a chance to take the forefront. As we arrive at the D major chord, we're not anticipating this on the verse. We're just hitting the open 4th string, the D note, right on beat 1. Hitting the 4th string, then the 3rd string, then the 1st and 2nd, back to the 3rd. And then we'll be outlining the A major chord fairly similarly to the way we did before. However, it's going to start right on beat 3, and the hammer-on is actually going to happen right on the end of beat 3, and will land on the hammer on the 2nd fret right on beat 4. Then we'll hit the 3rd string by itself, and then remove the 3rd finger and hit the 2nd and 3rd string together. So that looks like this. And so we're taking that off to hit those 2 notes together. And then we'll play the whole chord, 5th string, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st, and do that hammer on one more time. Then hitting the 3rd string, open 1st, back to the 2nd string. So that whole A figure will look like this. One more time. Then we're going to the E major. We'll hit the open 6th string, the 4th string, 2nd and 3rd, back to the 4th. And then we're going to our figure with G and G major 7, and this is also very similar to what we had in the intro. In this case, though, we'll just start off with 8th notes, hitting the 6th string, and then the open 4th, So we're not starting out as 16th notes like we did in the intro. Then we'll hit the 6th, going to the 4th, then the 1st, 2nd, 6th, 3rd, 6th, 2nd, 6th, and 3rd again. Really slowly, that looks like this. So you know, he just changes up the rhythm slightly. One more time. Then we're back on the A major again, and we'll outline it basically the same. And it sounds like here that he does kind of a slide down from the 5th fret down to the 3rd. And so he just sort of slides into that next chord. So it looks like this. He outlines it much the same. And then here you can hear on the recording where he sort of strums these chords a little bit. And this is typical of his style also, to go right from finger picking into strumming. And you'll see a lot of people do this where they'll use either their thumb or just the tip of their index to kind of gently strum. And it's kind of a neat thing because you can go from that straight arpeggio into just gently strumming the chords. And so here he'll hit the 4th string and just sort of down, down, up real gently on that D. And then it's right into an A chord for another embellishment. And that's identical to what we had in that A major at the beginning of the verse. And at the end of that, we've got that hammer on, and then 3rd string, 2nd string, 3rd string. So we've got then the E major again, and then into the G and G major 7. And that gets you through the way that that first verse is played. I'll play that at half speed, and then we'll look at some embellishments, such as the ones that I played on verses 2 and 3. So here's at half speed. So there's verse 1. I'll go ahead and play verse 2 at speed, and we'll take a look at some of these embellishments. So you'll notice that this has a lot more 16th notes in it than that first verse did. And sometimes live, you'll notice that he'll fill in the chords a little bit more than he does in that original recording. And, you know, it can depend what mood a performer's in, or just that they've played it a long time and they're adding a few more notes in. But it is neat to see somebody keeping it fresh and sort of making up new chord treatments as time goes on. So to look at a few of these, we're starting out that A major much the same, but just adding in a few more notes. To outline that a little bit more, E minor, much the same. So we add, starting on the A major. On this D, here you can see that we actually changed it up by not ornamenting it. And then on the A major, it's keeping it a little straighter. Instead of doing all those hammer-ons, it's just outlining that A sus2. And this is sort of a modern thing to do, which is instead of resolving a sus chord, just leave it suspended. And then in the following measure, actually go ahead and resolve it with that 2nd fret on the 2nd string. So you can get those exact fingerings and arpeggio patterns from the tab. But just to illustrate a little bit about what we're talking about, going into E major, rather than have just the 8th note outline of that chord, we'll just arpeggiate it straight up. And here, sometimes you'll see like a bass walk up where we're kind of doing the top part of an E major and strumming that a little bit and then walking up with the F sharp on the 2nd fret of the 6th string. And so you'll see that sometimes. And really there's a couple ways to finger that. Probably the best is to use the 2nd finger here on the 4th string, add the 3rd finger here to the 2nd, and then that gets you into the correct fingering for that G major. So one more time on that E major. And then we've got the G and G major 7. So you notice that pattern in the tab is a little bit different than the original version as well. Then we're back on the A major again. And this time on the D major, we'll do a little bit more of that strumming, as well as add an E note to the bottom of the D. And this sort of mirrors what the bass is doing in the background. It follows adding that E note on the bottom. And then back to that A sus2 again, to the E major with the walk up. And then on this G major, you'll notice just a few differences, and I'll point these out in the right hand. We're still arpeggiating straight up that arpeggio, but then rather than having that pedal the whole time, sometimes we'll add some other notes in place of having that G note every 8th note. So that'll look like this. So I'll play this more ornamented verse at half speed. And that gets us through the verse segment.
I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end.
This is the chorus segment for Fire and Rain. I'll go ahead and play the first chorus at speed, and then we'll slow it down and take a look at the chords. On the original track of the chorus, you can hear that the guitar blends in with the piano quite a bit. They actually have a very similar tone color in the recording, and so the guitar's way in the background. The guitar's basically just mirroring what the piano is playing with chords with a descending bass line. So we'll take a look at these chords, and then on the second and third chorus, you'll notice on the performance track I did a little bit more of an arpeggiated style, which is similar to some of the ways that James Taylor plays this song live, and so we'll look at those as well. We start out with part of a D major chord, and this is basically the 4th string, 3rd string, and 2nd string out of a D major. We're then playing a D over C sharp, and to do that we're just adding the 4th finger to the 4th fret of the 5th string, playing the same top 2 notes on it on the 2nd and 3rd string, then going to notes outlining a B minor 7. To do that, there's a couple different things you can do. You can just curve the 2nd finger around and hit the 2nd fret of the 5th string, or you could do a full B minor 7 bar chord. However, on the recording it sounds more like it's this voicing. And we then have an E7 sus4. To do that, we're just adding an open 6th string below those same 2 notes. So we basically got, and then we've got the same figure with the A sus2 going to A major, the same ornament that we've had before. Open 5th string, and then hammering on, hitting the 4th string, then hitting the 2nd and 3rd string with the open 2nd. Then we're going to pluck the whole chord and hammer back on the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. So that looks like this. Now on the 4th beat, as I said before, the guitar is really blending in with the piano, and you really don't even hear this 4th beat on the recording. So you could either just do a light strum of the chord, you could pluck a few notes with your fingers. It's really just sort of an invisible part for the guitar. So that whole segment, which will be played 3 times through, looks like this. So you'll play that 3 times. After that, we're going to some different chords. We've got a G major. It's really sort of a G power chord because we don't have the 3rd in it. We've got the 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, open 4th string, open 3rd string, and 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Then we're going to a D over F sharp chord. The best way to probably play that here is to use the thumb to fret the 2nd fret of the 6th string and add the 1st finger to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Then we're going to an E sus4 chord. You can just use 3 fingers on the 2nd fret, 5th, 4th, 3rd string. And then we're removing that 3rd finger to make an E minor chord. So that looks like this. At this point, we'll be ending the chorus on an A sus2 chord. And I should mention that there's accents in here where it's important to strum a little harder. And as he gets into this strumming, it's real important to have that light feel with your finger as you're strumming. If you have a little bit too much of a fingernail, you're having a hard time with that technique, you can always try it with a pick. But essentially, he's just going right into strumming with his fingers. And you can look in the tab and see where these accents fall. The main difference is on the first chorus, the accents, for the most part, tend to be on the upbeat. You'll have it on like the beginning of the measure, and then in the 1st and 2nd bar of that A sus2, it'll happen on the last 16th note of beat 2. So you'll have a figure that'll look like this. And I'm also going to use the thumb to sort of mute this 6th string so it doesn't ring. So notice on that up, I'll strum a little bit more. So I've got down, down, up, down, up with the accent. And then on the and of 4, which is a downstroke, I've also got an accent on that bar. So I'll play that for you. And the difference is, in the 2nd chorus, our accents are in a little bit of a different place. It tends to be on the and of 2, which is a downstroke, and then also on 4, which is a downstroke. So that 2nd chorus would look more like this. And so you want to pay attention to where those accents occur. The outro is going to have an extended A sus section, and so we'll look at sort of that strumming pattern in the outro segment. I'll go ahead and play that first chorus at half speed, and then we'll look at some options for embellishing it a little further. So that gets us through the regular chorus. Now let's look at more of an arpeggiated type of figure, and you'll hear James Taylor actually play some things similar to this live. In this case, I'm going to play the same D major, but I'm actually going to arpeggiate through it. I'll start by playing the 1st string and the 4th string together, and then just arpeggiate straight up the chord. For the D over C sharp, I'll do the same fingering, but I'll actually add a sus2, and this gives it a little bit more of a modern sound. And I'll just arpeggiate straight up that chord. I'll then add the 2nd finger on the B minor 7 and just go 5th string, 2nd string, 3rd string, 2nd string. So far. And then for the E7 sus4, I'll also arpeggiate straight up that chord. So you notice that on 2 of these 4 chords, we're really getting that whole step interval between the 3rd fret of the 2nd string and the open 1st string. So that just gives it kind of a neat sound. And then we'll use a similar figure on the A sus2 to A. And you could outline that a little bit more with arpeggios for a busier sound. So you could just play that for the same 3 repeats of that section. So I'll go ahead and play this arpeggiated chorus at half speed as well. And then we'll end the same with the A sus2 chord. So that gets us through this chorus segment and then on to the outro.
One more time again. Thought I'd see you one more time again.
This is the outro segment for Fire and Rain. And as I mentioned before, with James Taylor's strumming, he generally tends to do it with his thumb or with his finger. If you're having a hard time getting a good tone, you can always try to palm a pick in your 2nd finger to pull that out when you need it. And a lot of people use that technique to get both a finger style and a picking style going. On this outro, essentially it's just the A sus2 that you're just holding as the song ends. And I'll go ahead and play it at speed and then talk a little bit about the accents that are being played. The most important thing to keep in mind about this outro as we're writing this A sus2 chord is just to keep the groove with a down-up motion. Here the drums are a little busier and really some vocal improvisations taking place, and so the instruments are all sort of interacting around this groove. So it's really important to just keep a down-up motion in the right hand. Even when we're just playing 8th notes and leaving the 16th note subdivision out, the hand's going to continue to move in this up and down motion, and it's just not going to attack the strings in that particular section. All the accents in this part, and you can see exactly where they fall in the tab, but the accents all fall on a downstroke, so there aren't really any upstroke accents like we had on that first chorus. So as I'm playing the first couple bars, you notice where those accent marks are, I give the pick a little bit more force. And sometimes those are occurring right on the downbeat, sometimes they're occurring halfway through the beat, but those are all going to be downstrokes. There's a couple places where we have some rests. In those instances, I'm just kind of slapping the hand down and then coming back up with an upstroke. There's also some places where we've got a dotted 8th and 16th type of rhythm, and that'll sound like, so it's down, up, down, down. So it's kind of delayed, but you're still going to keep that feel in your right hand. So let's play through that outro at half speed, and if you can just visually see where those accents are, that'll make it the most easiest. Really, it's not vital that you hit those exactly where they are, but it's most important, as I said, to keep that down-up type of groove with your right hand. So outro, half speed. And that's the outro for Fire and Rain. This is the performance for Fire and Rain.